Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. We have a lot of possessions in life. We may have cars, we may have a home, we may have clothing, we may have jewelry. We have things that we value, and sometimes as we go through life, we lose them. We get fired, there's a recession, things change, and because of the financial changes, we lose the things that we possess. But the good news is, often we can get them back. A parent dies and we get an inheritance. We get a new job and we get paid more. Changes happen in life, and because of these changes, we gain money, we gain possessions, we lose money, we lose possessions. But there is one thing that we own, that no matter what, when we lose it, we can never get it back. And do you know what that is? Time. In many ways, time is our most precious commodity, because once we lose it, we can never get it back. Once that time is spent, it is gone forever. So the question we want to ask ourselves is, are we using our time well, or is it a precious commodity that we're squandering all day long? First off, what do I mean by using time well? Well, we have to start with one thing, and that's what our goal or our purpose of life is. And for most of us, our goals, our aims in life change as we age. When we're younger, it may be very important that we're liked by our friends, and perhaps even popular, because then our lives are going to go well. When we get a little bit older, it may be important for us to get into a certain university or get that really good job so that we have a lot of money or have the potential to make a lot of money, and then all will be well. And then as we get a little bit older, we may want to find someone to journey through life with, to have a family with. And when we find that soulmate, wow, things are going to go great. And as we get a little bit older, it can keep shifting from houses to cars, to careers, to traveling, to getting well because we're having health issues now as we get older, to retiring well because we're sick of working. Well, with all these examples, I want you to notice two things. One is they change. It doesn't stay the same for most people. What today may be our purpose, and we want to use our time well to reach that goal, changes, and it's something else a day, a month, a week, a year later. So the hope is that along the way, the second thing that we realize is that, it's changing because I'm not really pursuing the right goal. I'm wanting to be happy when certain things happen instead of, I just want to be happy. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while and my talks on how to be happy, you know it's about pursuing happiness, not about pursuing things or events or external things for happiness. Happiness is an internal job that we can have no matter what's going on in our lives. I talk about this often. And the other thing I talk about is our relationship with the world, being kind, being loving towards the world, and in many ways trying to make the world a better place for us to live in and for everyone else too. This is just a natural consequence of being happy. When we're happy, when our lives are going well, we want to love others. We want to be kind. We don't want to fight people. And when we see people struggling or our planet is hurting, we want to make it better and improve it. Those are the two purposes in life to help us to have a good life, so that when we come to the end of our journey here on earth, we look back and say, I lived well. Now I know there may be some people listening right now that don't agree with that, but my guess is the majority of people listening, this makes sense. I want to be happy, and I want to make the world happier too. That probably seems like a good goal to have and a good purpose in life. But today we're actually talking about time. And how does time play a role in us achieving our goal or our purpose of life? And I'm hoping today we'll look at our day as we wander through life in a very different way and ask ourselves, what am I doing right now that is working towards my goal of finding peace and contentment in my heart and being kind towards the people in my life? Because if you remember at the beginning of this talk, I was explaining how the one thing that we don't get back once it's used is time. So time is an incredibly precious commodity. And mostly, we're making choices throughout the day with our time to make ourselves comfortable right now. Because we really all do want to be happy. But what catches us is we're looking for thrills or things that make us feel good right now instead of things that will make our lives happy. And so we struggle because these things aren't fulfilling. Because of all the changes in life, we do things that bring us thrills or a respite from the challenges of life, but don't make us happy in the long run. Let me use an example. Let's say we get up in the morning and we have an extra hour before we have to head off and start our day. Now we could use that hour sitting at the table on our phones, watching silly videos, or perhaps a sitcom that we like that's silly, or keeping up with the news and repeatedly watching the same events over and over again. And we could do that every day, 5 days a week. Before we go to work or school, we could do that. I think a lot of people do. And yet, is that in any way contributing to our goal of being happy, of finding peace in our life, or making the world a better place? Probably not. What if instead we got up and meditated for an hour, or went to the gym and worked out for an hour, or went for a walk in our neighborhood, or listened to or watched some self-help videos or audio programs that really help us improve our lives? And we did that every day, 5 days a week. Would there be a difference? You bet there would. Or let's say the weekend comes and we're a weekend warrior. We want to have fun, we want to have a blast. So we get together with our friends, we get really drunk, both Friday and Saturday night, and we wake up on Sunday morning, we're exhausted, we're tired, and we feel like crap. For many people that may be a thrill, but it definitely isn't using our time well towards working towards our goal of being happy and helping others. That's not going to do anything for us. And sadly, it may do detrimental things towards us. The choices that we make over the weekend to have fun can get us in a lot of trouble. I mean, don't we all know people who got in a car wreck because they were drinking too much and perhaps they killed someone? Or maybe they're in a wheelchair? I do. Many people in life I've met that have had to face these consequences. And it's sad and it's painful. And again, is it working towards improving our lives, to shine, to do well in life? Because that's what we're here for. So we can ask ourselves, okay, the weekend is coming, and I want to use that time wisely. How do I do that? What could I do to improve my life? And the key is, just by asking that question, there's a shift. There's a shift in how we're using our time. And we're going to begin to use our time wisely. And if we do that, what will result from that are good things, positive things, things we'll look back on and say, I'm so glad I did that. But Dr. Puff, I don't know what to do when it comes to the weekend and when I have this free time. How do I use it well? Well, we begin by listening to our hearts and saying, what do I need? What will fill me up and make my life go better if I do that? And why there's no direct answer for all of us is because we're different. We're at different stages of our life. Some of us have been working on this for decades. For others of us, this is our first day. We've never done anything to improve our life before. We've just been a thrill seeker. So we have to ask ourselves, what would be good for me right now? And that wouldn't overwhelm me, but would encourage me, and I could keep doing it over and over again. I often use the example, if you want to get in shape and you're a 400-pound couch potato, probably going for a 10-mile run is not a good idea. But walking around the block or getting into a pool may be a wonderful thing to do that could get us moving in the right direction. It's the same way with personal development. We have to ask ourselves, what would be good for me? That after I did it, I would be better. I would feel better about my life, about the way it's going, and I would be moving in the direction of finding happiness here and now. Not because of circumstances, because external circumstances change. So we think, well, I'll get on the dating apps. I'll go on a lot of dates because if I meet my soulmate, then I'm going to be happy. Remember, that's looking externally for happiness, and happiness is an internal job. So if we're ever looking for anything externally, it is the wrong direction. Not that we can't find someone to date, but thinking that will be the solution is wrong, because life changes, and even if we meet our soulmate, they may die before us, they may break up with us, a lot of things can change. But if we're internally happy, no matter what happens, we're good. So that's what we're working towards, doing things that make us good no matter what. And time is that very precious commodity that we throughout the day are either using well or using poorly. You may be thinking, well, is it that big a deal if I get on Netflix and watch 10 episodes in a row? Or is it that big a deal if I'm on my phone 4, 5, 6 hours a day, just watching mindless videos or engaging with things that really don't add anything to my life? Is it really that big a deal, Dr. Puff? Again, we have to see time as a very precious commodity. We only have so much. And the truth of it is, this could be our last day. And that's a very helpful thing to see, because if we think this is our last day, how would we use our time wisely? We would probably be with people that we love. We would only say kind things towards people. We would do things that would bring joy to our hearts. And at a deeper level, I'm arguing that life is a precious gift that we actually are here to use very well, meaning that we are supposed to be the most awesome human being that we can be. And if we see it that way, and we see time as a very precious commodity, then I believe throughout the day, we will use our time very differently. And if we see time as a very precious commodity, then we will also say, how do I use my time well right now? And it may not always be what you think. I feel it's very good for our souls to watch sunsets once in a while. And it's hard to explain why, but I just believe they're good for our soul. I believe it's good for our soul to be in nature sometimes. Hard to explain why, but it is. I think we'll find that when we see that sunset, when we're in nature, our hearts are just better. And so what we do is we begin to explore, we begin to try things out and say, yeah, that made me better. That made me more content with life. And I find that my life is going better now. So when we see that time is the thing that we have to help us improve our lives, we will use that time much more wisely and find that by using it wisely, our lives will improve. And I deeply believe two things. We really can have a beautiful life. It does take work. It does take effort. But if we do that work, if we use our time wisely, our lives can be beautiful. And we can help others to make their lives better too, just by being kind, just by engaging with people in loving ways. We will make our world a better place for us to live in, and for others too. May we all use our time wisely. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, please go to happinesspodcast.org. And until next time, accept what is, love what is.